So, the method to my madness. The reason why I decided to ask some people to share about personal development tonight is because you may have noticed, I made a post about this in the team page today, that we have completely changed our vital behaviors. And I could not be more excited about this. This is not just a Team Grit and Grace thing. This is a Beachbody thing. So Beachbody has changed their vital behaviors. So it's no longer invite, be a product of the product, invite, and then personal development. Now it is be proof the product's work, connect, invite, follow up, get people results, and personal development. So 4 things. And what I've decided, I'm going to go ahead and mute people who aren't muted because I can hear myself in the background here. What I decided was the best way to go through these vital behaviors is to actually break them down and talk about each one by itself, and then talk about how we can do all of them each day once we go over each one by itself. And I don't necessarily think that they're in order of importance, like be proof the product's work is number 1 and connect, invite, follow up is number 2. But I do think there's a reason why Beachbody decides to list them in the order they do. So what I decided to do was start from the bottom and work our way up, because I'm not saying personal development is least important. Please don't interpret me that way. What I'm saying is that it's the 4th one. So then next week we'll move up 1, and then next week we'll move up 1. I think that personal development is probably the easiest or the least scary. I think that's probably why it's the 4th one on the list, because it's something that isn't hard. You know, it's not like inviting someone. You don't necessarily have to eat the frog before you do your personal development. So that's why we're starting with personal development. Next week's call, we'll be talking about getting people results. The week after that, we'll be talking about connect, invite, follow up. And the week after that, we'll be talking about being proof the product's work. And then we'll talk about how to implement these every single day, every single week, every single month, so that the compound effect takes place in our business and we see growth and accomplishment in the way that we want to see it. So personal development needs to happen because you have to be working on yourself in order to make sure that you have any value to add to others. And I think there's this perception or misconception, really, that because we're a coach, we think we're perfect, work on us is done, and other people can't be coaches because they're not there yet. And that's so beyond crazy. So we need to make sure that we recognize our weaknesses and that we also acknowledge our strengths, because it's good to know what you're good at. It's also good to know what you're not so good at so that you can supplement yourself where you need to be supplemented. It's just like our muscles need recovery, our mind and heart does too. So the purpose or the goal of personal development is to grow your potential, to increase your confidence, and to improve any skills that you may not necessarily bring to the table or maybe aren't your strongest skills. For example, I'm not a businesswoman. I'm not a saleswoman, I guess I should say. So an area that I need to work in skills-wise is with doing the selling part, like selling myself more than just, and not selling the products, but selling who I am so people buy into me, not necessarily buying into Shakeology. And the goal is to do, I think they say bare minimum is 10 minutes every day, but I would go so far as to say try to do 15 to 30 minutes of personal development a day. I mean, if you can listen to one podcast on your commute, or you can, read for that long, or listen to a podcast while you're taking your shower, any of those things, it's really going to benefit you. So the whole goal for tonight is to be introduced to a couple different types of personal development, so that maybe you'll walk away from tonight's call with an idea of some type of PD that you want to do next. I don't want to discount podcasts, and I don't want to discount the National Wake Up Call or audiobooks or anything like that. Those are really important, and they definitely have a place in my personal development. But I think sometimes having a tangible book in your hands, there's just something about that, being able to make notes in it and being able to, like, I actually sent a picture to Megan Lieb the other day because I was reading a book and I was like, Megan Lieb, like, this is her. This is what she says to me. And so I took a picture of it and I was like, read this because this is you. It made me think of you. Because I think, there's just something about being able to make notes in there and then flip back to it a couple days later. And I miss that when I'm listening to a podcast or when I'm listening to an audiobook. I have a hard time taking notes while I'm doing that. So I'll go ahead and share my book first, and then I will I'll invite the other girls to read their books as well. I don't even know what order I have them in. I'll have to look it up real quick on our team page so that we know who's going after me. But the book that I wanted to share tonight is Grace, Not Perfection, because one thing that I really struggled with, especially at the beginning of this year, was just trying to be everything to everybody. And because I was trying so hard to be everything to everybody, I thought I had to be perfect in all aspects of life. And if I wasn't, then I was a failure. And it wasn't like if I wasn't the perfect, I don't know, maybe I wasn't perfect on my fitness journey, but then I was also a failure as a mom and a failure as a wife and a failure as a teacher. Like I was the girl, like, if I can't be perfect at everything, then I'm awful at everything. It was like all or none. And that's not really fair to us. That's not really fair to us to feel that way. And it's not really fair to us to hold ourselves to that standard, because one thing I learned from this is that everybody has a different idea of what perfect is. Everybody has a different idea of what they want to be, what they strive to be. And if your idea of perfect is not the same as somebody else's, then neither one of you is ever going to accomplish perfect, right? I mean, you might accomplish it in their eyes or you might accomplish it in your eyes, but you're never going to just accomplish it end all be all, because it's not the same for everybody. So some of the biggest takeaways I got from this book are to invest in yourself. And I don't just mean like investing money in yourself. I mean like investing time with yourself. Like one of the things that I did last week that I learned from this book was I just went to lunch by myself. And my husband asked me, he was like, so did anybody meet you at Miss Lacey's for lunch? I was like, no, it's just me. He was like, oh, that's kind of sad. I was like, no, I sat on the porch and I didn't have Wi-Fi. I brought my laptop, but they didn't have Wi-Fi. And I just like sat there in the peace and quiet and watched people walk by. I watched a dad and his daughter have a little lunch date together. And it was just really nice to be quiet with myself for a little while. And that's something I learned from here. Like, it is absolutely okay to just spend some time with yourself and to appreciate your flaws and just grow with it. There's also a big section in here about mom guilt, which I think is something that speaks to so many of us, and something that also allows us to relate to other women, because I think so many of us are speaking to moms when we're sharing on social media, and so many moms are not cool with signing up to be a coach or signing up for an accountability group because they're not okay with spending that money on themselves because of the guilt that comes with it. And that's something that, we can help them to overcome by telling them we had that same fear. We have those same feelings. So one of the biggest quotes that has stuck with me the longest was in the very beginning of the book. And it says, here's the thing about doing it all. Even if you can do it all, no one can do it all well. And that has been probably the biggest learning curve for me this year as we started Team Grit and Grace. In the beginning, I felt like I had to do it all, and it had to be perfect, and it had to look pretty, and it had, there wasn't allowed to be any mistakes or errors or anything. Like if I forgot someone, or if I, overlooked something or slipped up and planned something and then forgot about it, or, I beat myself up so much because I wasn't being perfect. And then this book came into my hands and it was like, you can't do it all. You have to delegate a little bit and do what you can, but also understand that you're just as human as everybody else. And if you're willing to give them all this grace, then you need to be willing to give it to yourself too. So this is Grace, Not Perfection by Emily Ley. Lee, I don't know how you pronounce her last name. She's also got a couple other books out, and she makes planners that are really great if you're looking for a planner for next year. So I'm going to invite Jenna to speak next. Sorry, Jenna, I know I'm kind of throwing you out there. I'm trying to find the team call here. Yeah, Jenna. So Jenna's talking about the year of yes.
Okay, so this is the year of yes. I just picked it up completely randomly in Walmart the one day because I was looking for something different from what I usually read, and I really, really liked what was the last book? The Rachel Hollis book that I just read. It's more like, because you know how we're always told that we shouldn't say yes to everything. Don't be a pushover. You need to say no sometimes. And that's something that I always struggle with because I want to help everybody, and I never want to say no to anyone. But this is kind of like flipping your mindset. You're not saying no to anyone. You're just saying yes to the things that matter the most to you and to your priorities and what you want to achieve this year. So each chapter is broken down differently. Like Shonda Rhimes is the person who wrote it, and she writes the scripts for Grey's Anatomy and Scandal, and she talks about how in her mind everything is fiction and it's the way she wants it to be. And those are kind of like self-fulfilling prophecies for her. Like as she was growing up, she spoke the way she wanted things to be when she was older, and she's hilarious. Everything she says is so funny. Like I smile the whole time I'm reading it. But she has a chapter devoted to moms that I thought was really good because she's a single mom. So as she's raising her kids, she talks about how hard it is to be a single mom and to work in her industry because she works all night long writing scripts or whatever she does. And then I don't know, not her job, but she has a nanny. And so she talks like very clearly about how she's not the typical single mom. She has a lot of things easier than most people do, but her weight is something that she's always struggled with, and she's passed those habits on to her kids. So it really kind of, just like her lifestyle, passed that on to her kids. So she talked about when she said yes to being healthier, she was saying no to like sleeping till noon and eating whatever she wanted and feeding her kids whatever they wanted, and laying in bed all day on a Saturday just because she felt like it. She was saying no to all of those things and saying yes to being a better example for her kids. And she set a rule. So for one whole year, she decided that she wouldn't say no to, she would say yes to everything that scared her. So she gave like commencement speeches, and she actually went to the doctors for the first time since she had her babies. She met with a nutritionist. She did all these things that she normally would have been too scared to do, and she would have said no because of the fear of it. I had a couple things marked. I don't know. To me, it was just all about changing the way you think about saying no or yes. You're not saying yes to everybody else. You're saying yes to yourself and your family in your own way. So the first thing she did was she started by seeing a licensed physician. She went to the doctors and said, "Help me, I need to know how to change my life." And from that moment on, I said yes to everything that helped me change my life. I just thought that was really powerful. She had this experience on an airplane where she couldn't fit in her seat and she couldn't buckle her buckle. And that was kind of it for her. That's not what the whole book is about. Every chapter is about a different aspect of your life, but those are just the parts that stood out the most to me. So
I love that. I wrote it down.
I couldn't read any of your comments because it's on my phone, but if you had any questions.
I was just saying, I'm reading Mastering Your Mean Girl right now, and she's talking a lot about doing things out of love over fear. And so we're incorporating that into our challenge group. Every Friday for the month of November is going to be Love Over Fear Friday. And that's kind of what she did. Like she just decided, instead of fearing those things, to just say yes to them and go all in.
I forgot the one thing I wanted to say was, since she never sees her kids, she says she never sees her kids. It's very exaggerated because she's dramatic. But she says that anytime, one of the things she says yes to is anytime her little girl who was 3, anytime she would say, "Mommy, can we play?" she would never say no. So the one time she was on her way to like a show premiere or something, and she was in her full ball gown, and people were like, "Hurry, hurry, you're going to be late," trying to usher her into her car. And she was like, no, I said for this year, I wasn't saying no. Anytime she said, Mommy, do you want to play? So for like 10 or 15 minutes, she sat on the floor in her ball gown. But she has pictures of it in the book. And because she was just refusing to tell her daughter no, because she said she was saying yes. So I like that part too.
All right. Thank you, Jenna. Jess is going to share 100 Days to Brave, and she's already had a positive influence on a lot of people.
Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go through some basic parts of the book first. This is the book, 100 Days to Brave. And I do want to say Erica got it first and kind of got us all on it. But this was something that I absolutely needed, so I thank her for that. I love how the book is faith-based. I'm a Christian myself, so if this does, react for everybody else, like if this is something you're looking for, this is a really good book to go to. Each day, there's not more than 1 or 2 pages. So I was having a really, really hard time sitting down and taking my personal development seriously book-wise. Like I would listen to the audibles, I would listen to my podcasts, but the fact that this is only 1 or 2 pages and gives so much insight in those 2 pages, I can do this while I sip on my Energize in the morning, or if I'm on my way to work, not on my way to work, when I get to work, and when I'm drinking my shake, like right before I turn on my computer, I'm able to read it if that's when I do that. The greatest thing about this book too is at the end of it, there's always a go-to message that you have to do. So either it's writing in your journal. The beginning part on day 1 was tell one person, a friend, a spouse, a coworker, a mentor, that you have begun this 100-day journey towards a braver life. And I love that there is something that you have to do at the end of each day. And just like our programs, I'm routine. I like to be on some kind of I know what I have to do every single day, and being on a 100-day program with the personal development actually helps me dive into my personal development better. The one thing I did want to share is, I think everybody needs to hear this, is that what we're doing as coaches and changing people's lives, we're so brave because we're putting ourselves out there for all the flaws, everything, all our non-scale victories, all the bad days, all the good days. And it's really hard because you never know what you're going to get back from people. So this one thing stood out, and it's on day 1 in this chapter. And it says, brave people don't stop hearing the whispers of fear. They hear the whispers, but take action anyway. And I feel like Grant Grace does that every single day. So this is the book, 100 Days to Brave, and it's by Annie F. Downs. And if you also, if you put it in your Instagram every single day and hashtag 100 Days to Brave, I had her comment back to me. Good job for, I didn't tell the girls this yet. Good job for, doing it. What day are you on? And I responded back. I didn't get a response back for that, but I was just happy enough that she responded to the hashtag that I was doing 100 Days to Brave. So you can get this at Target, Barnes & Nobles. It was like $10 or $11, or Amazon too.
I have it and I need to start it. And now that I hear you say it's only a couple pages, I just need to go ahead and do it. I kept putting it off because I was reading something else. All right, Jen, the self-love experiment.
I forgot how to unmute for 0.2 seconds. Okay, so I have so many notes about this book because this book is I felt like she's my soul in a book. And it was one of those books where things that were going on with me, it was she was talking to me. It was insane. There were so many things in this book. I'm are you sure? I'm is she stalking me? What is going on? It was just it was weird how much I could relate to it. So I was just writing down that it's broken up into 6 parts. So the first part is called the beauty in the breakdown, and that there's purpose to our pain. The second part is called the self-love experiment. The third part is about surrendering to what is and the art of letting go. So letting go of negativity, letting go of people in your life that are negative, or not that they're not giving you purpose, but they're kind of taking away from who you are. The fourth one is about the journey being the reward. The fifth one is called Me Matters. And then the 6th section was my favorite part of the whole book. it was actually like the self-love principles, I think she called it. There were like 15 different principles that she talks about, like living your life by. And that section was kind of just like, holy crap, like it was insane. So the reason I personally chose this book is I have struggled since as long as I can remember with self-love and self-confidence and, I'm very open with my mental health, and it's something I work on a daily basis. So that was a big reason I picked up this book, but I didn't think it would be as like transformational for me, like as it was. Like it was insane. So just some of the biggest things I got from this book, she actually did something really cool. She like shared her story throughout the book while like helping us like recognize our story, but not in a way where it was her like talking at us. It was like, it was weird how she did it. But she talked about how she like talked to her flaws. So like she actually struggled, I think, with drug addiction. I think she said anorexia and being overweight, but she like looked at those flaws as like, she like basically said thank you to them for helping her see who she is and find who she is, because without them she would have never found this self-love experiment. She would have never been able to write this book about everything. So I thought that was pretty cool. And my biggest thing that she always said, which I shared in the team page the other day, is about being your own best friend and loving yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, then how can you expect other people to love you for you? So those were my biggest takeaways.
I like that. I like how we're all kind of on the same page. Lindsay is going to share This Is Me with us.
So I picked up this book and I actually got it at the library. It's by Chrissy Metz. And if any of you guys watch This Is Us, this is the actress who plays Kate. And when I first started watching that show, I instantly like locked eyes with Kate. It just goes from I'm completely obsessed with her too, Jen. Just the struggle she had with her weight. It opens up, one of the first scenes in the show is an OA meeting, Overeaters Anonymous. And I have experience with the OA community, not just as somebody who attended, but my mom was huge in it when she was alive. And so that really resonated with me. And so I just happened to notice, I went to go pick up some books for Sarai at the library, and somebody else had put the book on hold, so it was on the hold shelf. And I'm like, wonder what that book's about. So I requested it and got it. And it's called Loving the Person You Are Today, This Is Me. And it's her autobiography of how she started, of her journey with food, the mental health aspect of what happened in her history that made her turn to food. And it talks about her mom's divorce, and it talks about her father who walked away from her, and all of this stuff. And what I also love about it is she goes through it, and the very opening, the introduction, is talking about how bees are not supposed to be able to fly. They're just if you look at a bumblebee or a honeybee, scientifically it should be impossible for them to lift themselves up and fly. And that how she really related to that. So it goes through telling her story, but then it also has these be mindful activities in it. And one of them is like, trying to get to the page. Of course, I lost all my page markers. Like, be mindful is saying thank you and doing all these different things, or the preschool rules still apply, and things like how to be an agent in charge of your own life. And one that really hit me was the very first chapter of the book. She talks about meeting Oprah for the first time, and how Oprah actually invited her out to her house, and they're having this fancy dinner at luncheon, and there's this gorgeous napkin sitting there, and she goes, and Chrissy's talking about she's about to start crying, and she doesn't want to cry because she doesn't have a handkerchief or anything, and Oprah just looks at her and goes, use the pretty napkin. Just do it. Don't be ashamed. Just use the napkin. Do what you got. Take charge. And I really enjoyed it. At the very end of that first chapter, it goes, think about what you want. I'll wait. No, seriously, I'm not leaving you alone on this page without you taking a moment to put a request out there. It can be hard to say what we really want. A lot of us did not grow up with positive reinforcement. And it talks a lot about just say it out loud. Speak your dreams out loud and allow the universe or whatever to make it concrete. And I thought that was so huge for me because there are so many goals and dreams that I have for myself that I've been afraid to speak because I believe in the power of words. I believe in when you say something that gives them power. And just as I talk to Sarai and try to teach her that you need to use your nice words, what you say matters, I say the same thing to myself, and yet I still try to put limits on myself. And so this book really helped with changing that. And in the end of the book, it's not really everything's perfect in her life. She still has the same struggles, but she's finally loving herself for the journey that she's been on. So yeah, I thought it was really good. And it's an autobiography style.
So my hope for tonight, by having multiple people share what they were reading and what they were taking away from it, was that number one, you would see that we're all reading different things. Like Jess was really transparent about the fact that she's not someone who likes to sit down with a book and read. And I'll be honest, during the summer, I don't have time to sit down and read. Like, I know that people use that as an excuse, but I don't. So that's when I do my audiobooks. That's when I do my podcasts. During the school year, my students read, and I model reading for them. So I bring my books in and read in front of them. So I do have time to read books during the school year. So understand what works for you. You know, everybody here that shared tonight has different lifestyles, has different things going on, and therefore have different ways that they're getting their personal development. But everybody's getting their personal development. And it's really important to understand, I know I've said this before, but you need to understand what you need. Personal development is personal. So you really have to base your personal development on who you are, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and what you need in this moment in your life. Because there are times when you will be ready to read something like The Compound Effect and focus your personal development on your business. But then there's going to be other times where you need to do some heart work and you need to work on your self-confidence and your inner belief and your inner mean girl, like the voice in your head that's saying things to you. Is it being nice to you or is it being mean to you? Like, those are things you need to understand about yourself and then pick your personal development accordingly. Just because somebody else is reading the 5-second rule or something by John Maxwell, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to go grab that book off the shelf and start reading it right now, because it may not speak to you right now. And I will say that there have been times where I've picked up a book like the 5-second rule and I've been reading it and I've thought, this is supposed to be really good and I'm not getting anything out of it. Like, why is Summer Tucker telling me to read this book if it's not speaking to me? And it was because I wasn't ready for that. Like, that book is actually in the top drawer of my nightstand right now because I know at some point it'll be there for me. But right now, this is the stuff I need. I'm still working on some inside stuff this year. And I know that about myself, so I've been focusing my personal development on that. I know that I'm a big introvert and that's a weakness in a leader. And I know that I have this leadership role, so I need to find strategies to overcome that weakness. So a lot of my personal development has been focused on that. So I'm going to urge you, I'm going to encourage you to do some inner reflecting. If you haven't looked at the unit that I added to our team page today on the 4 new vital behaviors, please take a moment to look at that today. Someone shared with me, they made a really pretty graphic that goes along with the new vital behaviors, and I put that in the unit. I'm also going to put this team call in the unit because this is the 4th vital behavior. So it's going to be in the unit so that you can always come back and revisit if you need to. But I really want to encourage you to go back in there and really reflect on you. So in that little graphic that I shared, if you scroll down, there's a questionnaire, and it's an opportunity. You don't have to share your score. You don't have to, I mean, you might want to talk to your SP or your close-knit people that you work with in your challenge groups or something, and just kind of compare notes, like, this is what I got, what'd you get, kind of thing. But I encourage you to go through that quiz and actually take it and be honest with yourself while you're taking it. And then see what your score is and see if you can kind of decide on where your personal development needs to be right now in order to cater to those strengths and weaknesses. Because if your strength is organization, you don't need to be reading an organization book. You might enjoy it because you like organization, but it's not going to help you. You're already there. So tonight was about hearing from a couple different people of what they're reading or listening to. It was about encouraging you to focus on what your personal development needs to be, your personal development. And then I think more than anything, this community and this call tonight was really about you understanding that it's not just you. You're not alone. Like, it's just like our accountability groups. So many women feel like they're the only woman in the world struggling to put a healthy meal on their table. So many women feel like they're the only woman out there who doesn't know how to make a meal plan and walk into the grocery store with a set list. So many women think that they're the only one who says, I'm going to do this and I am on a diet. And then 2 days later, they're eating an entire package of Oreos in the closet. So many women feel alone. And if there's anything that we're not going to let happen on this team, we're not going to let anybody on this team feel alone. Not in your physical journey, not in your mental, emotional journey. And so when you find yourself in an area of need and personal development could benefit you, go to someone on this call, go to someone in this team page, put some feelers out there and say, this is what I'm struggling with right now. What should I do? Do you have any suggestions for me? Because that's what we want our challengers to do in our challenge groups. If they're struggling with something, we want them to post in the group saying, I don't know what to do with this chicken. Tell me what to do with this chicken. I mean, that's something super basic, and this is bigger than that, but we want that community. That community is not just something that we're saving for our accountability groups. This community is the same thing. And we're all working together to make sure that we're going to be successful, not just in life and not just in business, but all encompassing. We want to be successful in all areas. And so in order to do that, we need to understand that personal development is where it's at. I mean, if you don't know what to read next, then start talking to someone. Start asking people what they're reading. But make sure that you do the self-reflection and that you understand where your personal development needs to be at right now, and serve yourself, guys. Fill your cup. If the only thing you do for yourself on a daily basis is read a book for 10 minutes, that's a huge self-care. That's huge, huge, huge. And it's so important. So many women don't do that. If you would read for 10 minutes a day and share one thing you got out of your reading every day, imagine how many lives you would touch and potentially change just by sharing one thing you get out of your book on a daily basis on your social media. So if there are no questions or comments or anything like that, I'm going to stop recording, and I'm going to make sure to put this recording in the unit in our team page. And I really want to encourage you all to go through that unit. If you were not on this call at the beginning, I did say that the reason tonight we're doing personal development, next week we're doing getting people results, the week after that we're doing connect, invite, follow up, and then the week after that we're talking about doing them all together, because these are the new vital behaviors. So we're starting from the bottom and working our way up. All right, I love you guys. Have a great week.